The U.S. Supreme Court determined that access to the abortion drug mifepristone can stay available. It is legal during the challenges that will eventually go out before the court. Yes, that's right. The abortion drug will continue to be 100% legal and available until the full case and controversy can be litigated before the court. Now, this decision made by the US Supreme Court, what it does is it blocks the ruling of the Trump-appointed Texas federal judge, Matthew Kasparian, which we'll talk about later, who suspended the FDA's approval of the drug. And in the Supreme Court's decision today, deciding to go ahead and stay Kasparian's ruling, well, it was Justices Clarence Thomas and Samuel Alito who both were the only ones to dissent. Both of these conservative judges would have allowed Kasparian's ruling to go into effect, which would effectively ban the sale of mifepristone during the time the issue was litigated before the US Supreme Court. Now, Stephen Mazie, who covers SCOTUS for The Economist, tweeted this. I believe it's graphic 9. He said that Justice Alito says declining to grant the stays would have simply rolled back the clock back on how mifepristone may be administered, narrowing the window from 10 weeks to 7, banning the distribution of mifepristone through the mail, requiring 3 in-person doctor visits simply. Of course, this is something that I would expect Alito and Thomas to say, and I know that Cenk, you too had predicted that this would not only be the case, right, but also that that they would be them in the dissent.
Yeah, there's a reason for it, guys. So politics is actually fairly easily decipherable. There's the number one thing that you have to follow is the money. We all know it. Follow the money, you'll get all the right answers. So when everybody panicked over the Kasparian ruling, oh my God, they're gonna get rid of the abortion pill. We told you immediately on this show, no, they're not. And we explained why. So let me show you that original clip and then I will tell you a little bit more context as to why we knew what was going to happen.
Whenever you have conflicting courts from different circuits, it goes up to the Supreme Court, especially on important issues like this. And so which way are they gonna go? It's 63 conservatives filled with religious zealots, so you might think that they might join the religious zealot judge in Texas and go, I don't give a damn about the science, I don't care that it's safer than Tylenol, we're gonna ban it, right? But I don't think so. As we've been saying all throughout, I think that those judges are more pro-corporate than they are, even more so than they are religious zealots. And I think that the Supreme Court eventually will do as their bosses tell them. Their bosses are corporate America.
So that's why we were sure that our side was gonna win on this. And we explained in depth at the time that we progressives do win from time to time, but not because, oh golly gee, Barack Obama was such a progressive or we won elections. No, it's all about the money. We explained that we won on the issue of gay marriage, partly because the country's opinion was changing on it greatly, but that usually doesn't do it. I mean, paid family leaves at 84% and we don't have it. Federal universal background checks are at 97% and we don't have it. So why did we get gay marriage? Because Barack Obama's donors in 2008, his top donors were the banks. In 2012, his top donors were gay rights groups and individuals. So he always follow the money, you'll have your answer. It doesn't matter, none of the politicians give a damn about being progressive or conservative or any of those so-called ideologies. That's all theater. Whoever has more money wins pretty much every single time. And in this case, guys, this is one random judge in the country saying, I'm going to overrule the FDA and say that this drug is not allowed. If that became precedent, every judge in the country, by the way, both on the right and the left, could say, I don't like that drug, I don't like that drug, I don't agree with the FDA on that, and ban drugs all over the place. You know who's not gonna let that happen? Drug companies. And drug companies own all of Washington, including the Supreme Court. That's why it was a super easy prediction for us. In fact, in another segment, I was as specific as which judges would vote which way. And since this is breaking news, we didn't have a chance to pull that clip for you guys, but you could find it on YouTube or Facebook. And I said that Alito and Thomas would vote with the religious fundamentalists, but that Kavanaugh and Gorsuch would not. And that's why they would say that this drug is allowed to be in the country and can't be banned in the way that the conservative judge wanted. Why? Because Alito and Thomas are religious fundamentalists. That is their identity. They care more about that than anything else. But Gorsuch, Kavanaugh, and the rest of the justices, including all the other right-wing justices, they are not defined by that. They are defined by their pro-corporate positions. Their religious positions are a tool to get ahead. Oh, right-wingers, I'm on your side. I care so much about abortion. Promote me up the ladder, all right? Put me on the appeals court, put me on the Supreme Court. But the main reason that they got on the Supreme Court is because they said corporations can kill people. Again, this is not hyperbole. We've explained it a number of times, but I'll say it real quick here. Kavanaugh ruled in a case that a trucker, if his company told him that he has to freeze on the side of the road, must freeze to death. Otherwise, the company is allowed to fire him. And Kavanaugh ruled that SeaWorld did not have to compensate an employee that was killed by a killer whale. So they both literally ruled, and they were unique in this, saying their corporations can kill their employees and get away with it. I'm oversimplifying those complex cases, but those were the essence of the cases, and you can look it up and read it yourself to make sure that it is not hyperbole, okay? So that is why, if that's how they got on the Supreme Court, by being the most brutally pro-corporate, they are never going to rule against drug companies. It's not gonna happen. It doesn't matter if the issue is the most important thing in the world to religious fundamentalists, which is abortion. So that's why it didn't matter. Even on the most important issue, they're like, our religious values versus corporate profits, that's a no-brainer. Corporate profits are gonna win every time.
That always seems to be the way it is with these companies and how they have control over our government. Alonso, did you want to say something?
Well, first of all, I'm sorry about the tech. I missed the first part of this, obviously, but I agree with Cenk in that you follow the money. The interesting one now, and it's going to be interesting looking at his past decisions and his future decisions, is Clarence Thomas, right? Because we now know directly where his money's coming from. I mean, it's an attachment to a ultra-rich donor who is a corporate guy and could care less about religion or abortion or anything else. So I think Clarence is actually in a weird place where he's being pulled by both sides, right? The religious fundamentalists and the direct corporate thing. No, they weren't gonna ban this drug, and no, they're not gonna give the power to one judge to ban a drug or to challenge the FDA. But I think the bigger problem we have here is just the idea of, and this goes back to the whole COVID thing, these people challenging medicine and science. They don't know. Like, I have a friend who's a doctor. He's like, yeah, I'm gonna trust my medical degree and 20 years of experience over your anger, over your internet conspiracy site or whatever. And I don't remember in this before, where we have judges questioning the FDA, questioning medical experts just based on what? On their moral values or how they feel? I mean, it's insanity that this should never have happened.
Thanks for watching the Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.